Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm Stephen Brown and joining me is Jason Booker. And we're here to celebrate Leeds United champions of the Championship. We are back in the Premier League. That was confirmed, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, but it's nice now because we are officially the champions of the division and got to lift the trophy as well. We're going to discuss it all. We're going to discuss today's game. We're going to discuss the fallout, how we're all feeling. Quite a remarkable day across the region. Obviously, if you follow the West Yorkshire Football Show as well, we did a Bradford City special yesterday. They've had a remarkable day as well. Unbelievable as well. But yes, as Michael says here, champions again. Ole, ole. Absolutely, indeed. And Gavin, champions as well. Get your likes in, get your comments in. How do you feel? Jason, champions confirmed. We left it late, but no doubt great. And it's done. Business done. We've got it. We've got the title. It's nice, isn't it? You know, obviously promotion was the kind of thing that we were after. And I just feel it's just that kind of exclamation point, isn't it? When you go up as champions as well, and fully deserved. I mean, it's remarkable to see two clubs on 100 points. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Full credit to Burnley, full credit to Scott Parker and how they've done this season. Absolutely remarkable. But I've got to say, I'm delighted to see that we've actually won it now that we're in this place. Jason, your thoughts after the match, mate?
Yeah, it's a cherry on top of the cake and on top of the icing. And I mean, 18 goals we've scored after the 86th minute this season. It's the most in Championship history. It's insane. It's literally insane. And we've 2 against Sheffield, or 3 against Sheffield United later on, 2 really late, 2 against Sunderland really late, and again today, you know, and the countless other examples. It's just been a joy, mate. It's been an absolute joy. And, you know, I sent that table to you earlier, and with us and Burnley both sat there on 100 points. It actually feels a little bit like odd. Like, to look at the table and to see 2 teams on 100 points, it just looks odd. I mean, seeing one team with 3 digits in that column is odd. So it's just been sensational. You know, from start to finish, it's been a joy to kind of take part in. The battle obviously kind of met a crescendo when it did, and thankfully we came out on the right side of it, and rightly so as well, with the best team in the division. I've got a pretty good friend who's a Burnley fan, and even he's, you know, big enough to say 2 fantastic teams, both worthy of being champions on 100 points. But if you had to pick one of the 2, you'd just have to say that Leeds were just that little bit better. And I think that's completely fair. You know, we broke the record for best defence as well, which was instantly obviously broken by Burnley with their unbelievable record. I don't think that record will ever get beaten, Brownie. I really don't. 16 goals conceded over a season is insane. You know, just to give the proper kind of feel for what we've done this season to go, not just to get promoted, but to win this division. Burnley have not lost a game of football since November. They are 33 games unbeaten, Brownie. 33 games unbeaten, and we still beat them to the top. It's insane. And I mean, in that period of time, I think we've lost 1, maybe 2. I know we've lost 1 this year. I can't remember when the last loss was before that, at the back end of last year. I think it was Blackburn away, November, December time, something like that. But anyway, you know, to be able to pit Burnley to the title, given the fact that they've not lost for 33 games, is insane. And, you know, any conversations, and I'm sure we're going to get into it a little bit today about the manager, Daniel Farke, and the job he's done, it is scandalous. You know, and that this includes me and you, that a year ago, you know, we would have been in a position of saying we could understand him getting sacked. We both drove back from Wembley and said we'd be happy to see him go. And we were both wrong. The guy has done an unbelievable job to do what he's done this season. Manager of the season. You know, we've done it all. And, you know, that man, I know he's getting some comments already in the comments. And trust me, I'm going to bring up some receipts and I'm going to talk about him because I've been gassing him up all season. But Manor Solomon would have been Championship Player of the Year if he'd have been fully fit from day one. He had to get match sharpness and fitness back. He then had an injury a few weeks into his Leeds time. But he's been sensational. And, you know, you talk about Crescencio Somerville going off to the Premier League on the back of the year that he had last year. When we needed him most last year, he didn't turn up. When we've needed Manor Solomon most this year, in this back end of the season, the last 8 games when it really, really counted, the business end, he has dragged this team over the line, kicking and screaming. Sometimes he's done it with a lot of support from some of the other brilliant players that we've got within this side, Jaden Bogle, Junior Thurpo, Ethan Ampadu, Outenaka, Joe Perron, all of these as well. They all deserve, a massive amount of plaudits too. But when we have really needed a man, it's been Manor Solomon. It's been Manor Solomon game after game. And again today, he was the man that it was going to come through. And in the 91st minute, he made it happen. So I'm just buzzing for us because we backed him all season. There'll be plenty of you in the comments that did as well. And I'm buzzing for him because he deserves it, man. Like, he really, really deserves it. The club deserves it. Farke deserves it. The players deserve it. I'm just super proud.
Yeah. No, I think, it's absolutely spot on. And I think let's deal with it. Let's talk about it now because there's comments flooding in. As you mentioned, Gavin, that game needed the extra quality of Solomon. Enzio, Solomon was ace today for sure. And I think, do you know what? I think you've really hit the nail on the head. And I've not kind of thought of that before. But, last year in that final kind of few games, you're looking at your most talented players. You're looking at Jorginho Rutter. You're looking at Crescencio Somerville, and we didn't get anything from them in that last run. Now, Georgie obviously had come back from an operation, so you can maybe go, okay, fair enough. But you're absolutely right. Somerville never really did it. And Solomon has absolutely dragged us. I mean, today, he, over anyone else on that pitch, was going to make it happen. I feel if it hadn't been for Manor Solomon today, I think we would have drawn the game. I really do. I thought he just dragged us kicking and screaming to that championship title. You saw the quality. I mean, the goal and, the calmness of mind and the way he finishes it. He's just been absolutely exceptional.
Did he get the assist as well?
I think he got the assist as well.
He got the assist for Nantos, didn't he?
He got the assist as well, yeah, absolutely. And as Tom says here, Solomon needs to be signed permanently, but hopefully whoever the new Spurs manager is doesn't want him in his squad. And this is a thing, it's been remarkable with Solomon because he's had to fight a lot of kind of prejudice, really, is the only word I can describe it as, that people are like, oh, we don't want him, and it brings a lot of baggage and all this kind of thing. And he's really had to be unreal for people to actually go, oh, yeah, actually he's one of our most important players. I mean, Jason, credit to yourself. You called it from the moment he signed on the dotted line that this guy, if he stays fit, is going to be one of our key players. He's going to start week in, week out. Forget Nonto, forget Ramazani, forget anyone else. He's that's exactly what he is. And if we can get that deal done, Jason, it feels like a massive step because for me, when you look at him, he's like that kid in the playground at school, who's just better than everyone else. He's just better than you. He's better than your mates, and he can do anything he wants. And when I watch Solomon, I just feel like I'm watching a completely different level. I'm watching a Premier League player, and I can't say that about everyone in that team, but him, I can.
He's not in that bracket of like bottom end championship players. That's why he's a probably an 8th to 12th Premier League players. He's going to be in a team that should be finishing in and around that area of the table. The reason that he ended up in the championship was because of his injuries and because of the injury problems that he had. Now, I totally and utterly understood the concern around Manor Solomon and his injury record because he'd never played that many games. The games that he's played for Leeds United this season is the most that he's ever played for any team in the whole of his career. So I absolutely understood the reservations around that. And then having a 50 grand a week, but that's not for us to worry about as fans. Like, we don't pay his wages. You know what I mean? Like, the club understood the remit with him. They understood what they were potentially going to get, and they decided to back the medical department to be able to get him into tip-top fighting condition. Yeah. And that's what they've done. They've had a massive hand in rebuilding Manor Solomon's career. And, I said to you, and I said to anybody that listened right from word go, like, if he can stay fit, he will be a cheat code because, like I just said, he's not in that branch of player of, is he good enough for the Premier League? He's clearly good enough for the Premier League. It's just whether he can stay fit. And what we've ended up with is a Premier League player playing 32 games this season. The statistic, I shared it earlier, I will find it to give it exactly, but he is factually, statistically, our most successful player ever. The percentages of when Manor Solomon plays games, we've won the most out of any player that's ever played for Leeds United over a season. In them 32 games, I think we've won 23. I think it was something like that. Yeah. It's insane. You know, the amount of points that he's been responsible for. I had some stupid people fighting with me the other week that we didn't bring him in to do it against X team. I can't remember who it was. I think it was. Who was it that we played after Swansea, and he carried us over the line that day? No, it were after we drew 2-2, and then it might have been Middlesbrough. I can't remember. Anyway, whatever. It was a case of like the whole of the Championship is these teams. That's exactly why we brought him in. And I am at the point, and I've kind of been tempted with saying this for a while. We've touched on it before. It is purely things off the pitch that make people say the things that they do about Manor Solomon. It isn't his quality on the pitch, because it's just a fact. You've seen it week in, week out. Bielsa used to experience this xenophobia kind of stuff with the fact that he didn't speak English in front of the press. People would just give him a bad rap because of where he was from, basically. And the same goes for Manor Solomon. And most people are not even educated enough to talk about it. Like, I'm not educated enough to talk about it. I look at the footballer, and as long as he's not an evil person, I'm just going to, support him while he's wearing the Leeds shirt. And the guy has been insane, unbelievable, week after week. And I would say since January, I'd say he's been our best player. I really would. Maybe along with Jayden Bogle. The pair of them have been brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been that kind of shining light. And I agree completely. I think it was that annoying thing. You could see that kind of narrative building up, when we were linked with him before he'd even signed. People say, well, I'm not going to support him. I'm not going to get behind him. And like you say, it's all for reasons, not anything to do with what's happening on the pitch, which is a damn shame. And I think when we come back to look at this season, I think we will look at it as the Manor Solomon season and the difference that this guy absolutely made. Tom raises an interesting point. What do we think Levy will want from Solomon, and what would be acceptable for us to pay? 15 to 20 million. This is the fascinating thing, because I mean, looking at him, I go, yes, I absolutely think he's good enough for the Premier League. How much am I willing to pay? He's got a long contract at Spurs. He's got 3 years left on that contract, Jason. He were only signed at the start of Postecoglou's reign. It's not a last year final 12 months. I mean, how much would you be willing to pay for this guy?
It's a really, really interesting one, because, again, you bring up that man, Crescencio Somerville, you look at the amount that he went for, having no Premier League experience whatsoever, not having as good of a season as I would say Manor Solomon has, not being as good as a player as Manor Solomon is. I personally, and I said this at the beginning of the season, I think Manor Solomon's a better player than Crescencio Somerville. I do. And, I know West Ham have had a poor season, but I think time has proven that to be the case. So then you're talking 25, 30 million before you even get started. Manor Solomon arguably is now in or coming towards his prime. He's a European level player. So you're in a real tricky situation. And this is why loans can be so productive. I made the point in the group earlier that if we'd have bought Manor Solomon permanently 12 months ago, it'd have been for about 10 to 15 million tops. But because of because it'd have been a massive risk because of his injury record. But now that he's proven he can play a full grueling Championship season pretty much, and he's back to full fitness and he's doing what he's doing, he's probably worth 25 million, mate. He probably is. And I think there's a lot of value in bringing him in on a permanent basis over potentially risking somebody that's not settled in the area, doesn't have the affinity with the fans, the momentum and all the rest of it for maybe even 15, 20, 25, 30 million. Who knows? You could run a risk in doing that. So, again, it's not our money, is it? So I think as long as we're investing wisely in other areas, I think you do what you need to do to bring Manor Solomon in. I really do. I think he's very, very important. And he's the best that we've got in the team. I think he would instantly be the man that I'd look to in the Premier League to keep us up and create them magic moments. He's a Premier League player. So, 25, 30 million, if that's what it costs, that's what we pay.
Yeah, because, you're talking about a guy who's comfortable playing in front of that crowd. I feel like he could hit the ground running, and as long as, kind of injuries and stuff don't flare up again, I feel like you're kind of buying a ready-made player, you're not kind of bringing another winger in from abroad or another team where it's like, well, how are they going to settle in? Are they going to fit in? Can they play wearing the Leeds shirt? You know, we know what we've seen from Manor Solomon. We know I would suspect he could hit the ground running. You know, I really would.
Yeah.
Michael here, I was seeing figures for Solomon being caught between 10 and 15 million. Not sure how long. Well, I think he's got 3 years left on his career.
There's no chance he comes for 10 million.
No.
There's no chance. Jaden Anthony's,
like you say, for the last summer.
Well, Jaden Anthony is an example, right? Where the contract was agreed between Bournemouth and Burnley that if they got promoted, an automatic fee of 10 million would be in place for Jaden Anthony. I mean, how could you even? And we know that Levy's a bloody shrewd operator. He ain't going to be selling Manor Solomon for the same price as Jaden Anthony.
He's going to try and rinse.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I do think we have a good relationship with Spurs. So I think there'll probably be a bit of workings to do there. You know, I think we got a pretty good deal with Joe Rodon. We obviously gave them Archie Gray. We probably gave them first refusal, given the way that the back and forward seemed to be going between the two clubs. We loaned Jed Spence, and we've still got Greta Steinson, who's got links there. So hopefully we can make something happen. But they're not just going to give away an asset, because the facts are is Manor Solomon is an asset, and he's an even bigger asset after what he's just done over the last year. And this is why they won't have agreed to any fee 12 months ago, because they will have known, like me, like plenty of other Leeds fans that know what they're talking about when they're looking at footballers, that Manor Solomon's an absolute baller. Like, the lad's an incredible footballer. So, yeah, it's no surprise to me that he's ripped up the Championship, because the Championship, in terms of technical players, is very, very limited. It's very, very limited. And when you throw in a gem like Manor Solomon, I said it right from word go. It's a cheat code, mate. It's a cheat code. And that you can think over the years of other ones that stood out. Emi Buendia, total cheat code in the Championship. You know, and there's others that they shouldn't have been here. Adel Taarabt. Go look at what Adel Taarabt did in the Championship to Championship players, because they're just technically on a completely different level. And that's where Manor Solomon sits. The guy's a joke. So, yeah, I do think we'll sign him. I think he'll be here.
Yeah, I do. I think it'd be a real positive step. And like I say, I think he'd be absolutely ready for it. Jason, I mean, we can't take for granted, can we, really? I know, you know, it's... As Leeds fans, we had such a long, barren spell, 16 years outside the Premier League. Obviously, we had the League One campaign where we got promoted, and we had the FA Cup run, and that was pretty much it. And, we can't take for granted what we've achieved, can we, really? We can't take for granted, because I remember, I know what it felt like a few years ago, where every season's petering out. And it's going nowhere. You're not challenging. You're not at that. You don't have any last day drama, because there's nothing to play for, because it's your season's already done. I mean, how kind of proud of this team are you in the fact of what they've achieved? And in some ways, it's kind of, yes, obviously we've been relegated from the Premier League, so we had a financial kind of boost in terms of parachute payments, but it's not easy, is it, when kind of you've had a special team under Bielsa, and to follow that up to be kind of the next guy that's got to create the next miracle, which is what Farke's done. It's not easy, is it? And we can't take it for granted, can we? That what we've achieved, 100 points, the goal difference, everything. I mean, it could have easily not happened. It could have easily been that we got relegated and did a Luton. It really could have been like that. There was no guarantees that this was going to happen.
You need to remember as well how poor the recruitment was in the 2 seasons in the Premier League.
Yeah,
it wasn't like we was left with this like insane squad that then got re-promoted the season after. We had a couple of gems, a Jorginho Rutter that kind of surprised us. But Cree was signed for pittance. We were still playing Luke Ayling, Liam Cooper was still in that team. Melier was from years before. You actually look through that squad. It wasn't Mark Rocker and Diego Llorente, Robin Koch, Christensen, these players that we signed for the Premier League. It wasn't them they're doing this job to get us re-promoted, and nor has it been them this season. Apart from Dan James and Junior Firpo, maybe you can say, but the bulk of this squad has been what's been assembled under the new management and the new owner. So, yeah, sure, we've had advantages in the players that we've brought in, but like Burnley, as an example, Esteve and Trafford and, all these players were signed in the Premier League and have come down and brought them back up. We didn't do that. Not really. So I think it's an unbelievable achievement. And, you know, like I've been critical of Farke at times, but the job that he's done to lead this juggernaut. And I looked at him on the bench afterwards today, and my gut instinct initially was a bit worried, because does he know something that we don't know? And then I've watched his interviews afterwards, and it just seems like he was exhausted. He was mentally knackered, given the kind of stress that he's gone through. And that's what being the manager of a big club like Leeds United does at Championship level, especially. It puts you through the ringer, because our expectations are off the charts. So, you know, I don't think it can be stressed enough. Not just him, the players, but also the management and the ownership, the 49ers, Greta Steinson, Adam Underwood, you know, all of them, you know, Angus Kinnear, all of them. Like, they've done an unbelievable job to be able to assemble this squad. And Daniel Farke deserves the most credit for being able to pick them back up off the floor after 12 months ago and go again. And not just go again, but achieve. You know, we finished top by 10 points. Like, it was easy in the end. And we've done it with 95 goals, and most of the club have ever scored since the 1920s. By 2 goals, we missed out on that. 100 points, the most the club has ever achieved. 4 losses all season. It's insane. It is insane what they've been able to achieve. And Farke deserves so much credit. And I will be gutted, absolutely gutted, if he gets the bullet in the summer. If 5 or 10 games in and we've lost them all and he gets sacked, then fine. He deserves to. Then, you know, we can't risk the rest of the season at that point. I get it. But at this point, it would be a travesty if he doesn't get to have another go, because, you know, we all know that the Norwich time wasn't a fair yardstick to beat him with. Anybody with any sort of sense of rational thinking can now see that it won't be the same. I'm telling you, it won't be the same. I would be stunned if he doesn't or isn't competent and be able to you know, win us points in the Premier League. I really would, with the right recruitment, of course.
Yeah, and this is going to be the fascinating debate, I think, certainly over the next couple of weeks, now that the season is actually finished, is where a Leeds going to look. Is Farke the man? And I've got to admit, I mean, it kind of, after the full-time whistle, I was down at the Peacock and they kind of turned the sound off, so you couldn't really kind of gauge. And, you know, you saw Farke kind of, you know, looking kind of slumped, and it kind of makes sense from what you're saying in terms of, you know, if he's just knackered. Yeah. He's absolutely knackered from a tough season. But as Skip says here, maybe nothing, but seeing Farke's reaction today after the game, he seemed to not celebrate as much as usual. Maybe he already knows he's gone, or maybe he's just shattered after a tough season.
I thought that initially, but after reading and listening to what he said, I disagree with that now. I hope that's the case. I don't want to cut you off there, Brownie. No, I just seen Gavin's. I mean, we know that Gavin's hated Farke all season, and he'd have been one of the first to bullet him. But how can what he's achieved be seen as his ceiling when he is literally? We are the 7th team ever to hit 100 points, Burnley being the 8th. It's only happened 8 times in second division history. Like, that's not normal. Like, that's beyond the Championship ceiling. Like, he's the most successful Championship manager ever. Like, his ceiling is clearly higher than that, because he wouldn't just keep on achieving that. You can't just turn up and get 100 points, even if your team is the best in the division, which some would argue that it is. Some would argue that it isn't. It doesn't happen by chance. We've had several good teams over the years. It took Bielsa too. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's so harsh now that it's done to give him anything but 100% credit.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Do you know what I think it is with Farke as well? I think, and I heard murmurings, and I texted in the group saying, if we don't win today, if we actually finish second, this will hurt him in terms of fan perception.
Yeah.
As mental as that, we would have finished on 97 points or 98 points or whatever, and people would have used it as a stick to beat him with 100%. It's almost like it had to be perfect or nothing. And in some ways, he's achieved the minimum: promotion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, whatever you say about the points totals, he's achieved. Like, if he hadn't got us up, it would have been a failure. And that's that fine line between that. And it's bizarre to think of, like, that's how close it is between success and failure. But that is literally what it would be like. Now, in terms of going forward, I mean, are you kind of concerned that the club has not kind of come out and said, you know, a defiant kind of, no, he's our man and, you know, this is how it is going forward? Or you know, I mean, it's the 49ers, isn't it? They don't say too much at the
I'm really not around it. I'm really not. Like, what would a massive corporation come out and respond to every paper like clickbait kind of
planted stuff though? That's the other side of it. Is like guys with previous connections with a club, like the which was it? The bloke in the Daily Mail, you know, who's kind of Mike Keegan, who's kind of like seems to have some kind of pipeline to the club. I mean, you know,
I really do. I really, really do. I think these kind of things happen at football clubs all the time. The 49ers will have a shortlist. They will have a constant communication with agents and people. And I think there might have been a point where a whisper got mentioned to somebody that somebody knew a few weeks ago when we were in a bit of a slump. And Mike Keegan waited for the moment when promotion was confirmed to drop it like a bomb because he knows that it'll sell. I think it's as clean as that. And look, I could be wrong. We might find out in a week's time that Daniel Farke has gone, mutual termination, he gets a massive payoff or something like that or whatever. And I could be completely wrong. But I just don't see it. The 49ers are very, very shrewd. And there's a massive amount of potential in the momentum that this will carry through. And, you know, I do look at the Parag interview 2 years ago where he said, you know, Daniel Farke wasn't given a fair shake in the Premier League. They want to be the ownership that give him that fair shake. Yeah. They didn't sack him in the summer. So if he wasn't the right man, they'd have sacked him last year when he missed out on promotion. And then he's gone on to achieve unrecognizable achievements this season. Like, he's not just got us over the line kicking and screaming. Like maybe like Bradford did today as an example. Well done to them, by the way. I'm buzzing for him. But like, you know, we've done it comfortably. You know, when he's backward to the walls a few weeks ago and he came out and said, this team will definitely be playing Premier League football last season, a lot of people questioned him, me included. I were a little bit scared about that, like the pressure that, and he was spot on. He got it perfect because he took the pressure off the boys. He put the pressure on himself. And he went again. We were brilliant at Middlesbrough. We've been practically perfect since that moment, by the way. We've won every game.
Yeah.
Right? That's right, isn't it? I'm pretty sure we've won every game. That were after Luton, and we've won 7 in a row, I think it is, or something like that. So, like, he deserves it. He deserves it. You know, he does. And the thing is, I saw a really good point the other day about... you know, we can be ruthless with players in this situation. There'll be certain players that will be cast off because they're not good enough for the Premier League. Why would we be anything else with the manager? And I think it's got some credence. I hear it. But the manager ultimately is the person that is fully responsible, that has made it all happen. He's brought it all together. And I just think it sets a little bit aside from one individual cog. Yeah, so that's my take on it. He deserves it.
No, it's absolutely fascinating. And I want to bring up Tiger's comment here. Thank you for getting involved, Tiger. If you guys sack Farke, you will end up like us at Norwich and end up going back a decade of progress trying to find a replacement who can do the job. And I think this is what it is. I think it's kind of been slightly overlooked, kind of how difficult it is to understand what he has done at Leeds. Now, playing devil's advocate is... are we all kind of falling into the trap of thinking, yes, we've got 100 points in the Championship and let's re-sign Junior Firpo and Daniel Farke can do it in the Premier League. And then all of a sudden you get to, you know, game week 1 of the Premier League and you go, oh my God, none of these are good enough for the Premier League. That's my concern, is that do we turn up in, you know, the Premier League a couple of weeks in and go, of course they smashed it in the Championship, but this now at the Premier League is a completely different level. You know, that's my only thing, is like, we don't want the wool pulled over his eyes because people have been performing so exceptionally in the you know, we saw, I mean, Bogle in the Premier League was crap at Sheffield United. You know,
I hear you.
You know, and he's been absolutely outstanding. He's looked like Cafu this year. where's that line between, okay, we give them a go, but at the same time, we can't be so naive to think that this is going to transfer perfectly into the Premier League.
You have to recruit accordingly. You really do. And Daniel Farke, I think, has shown enough this season to be able to play attractive football that scores a lot of goals, that's defensively resolute. I mean, let's be honest. We'd have broken the points total with Caldalo in net all year. We would have done.
Yeah.
We would, or any other competent Championship keeper. If we'd have had Trafford, I dare say we'd have probably conceded about 10 goals because we've been brilliant all over the pitch. And it's the style of football, the man management. Again, I mean, earlier on in the season, certainly last year, he was criticised for his subs and his in-game management. His in-game management has been absolutely spot on for 95% of the season. He's been able to change games. He did it again today. He did what we needed to do to get us over the line. Verba, the change, go and have a look at the build-up for that second goal. Nonto's hugging the left wing, touchline. That's not just... You see, people are too quick to just give Nonto the credit for that, rather than what has been the instruction that's built up for that. We created an overload down that left-hand side. That's tactical. But they don't look at the manager for that. Like, he's more than capable of stepping up. Now, the players are a bit of a different question. There's certain players that are going to have limitations within their makeup that won't step up. Instantly I look off the bat at Ilya Gruev as an example. I really like Ilya Gruev. I really, really like him. At Premier League level, I struggle to understand how his passing range, his ability, mobility on the ball, his pace would survive it. I just don't think it would. I look at Brendan Aronson, who I really rate at Championship level, but when the levels of the Premier League kick in, how would he then compete? And there's others. The Pascal Struijk is another example. I think would be miles off it. And then you're going to have to hope that the likes of Joe Rodon, Ethan Ampadu, Jayden Bogle, Junior Firpo, and the list goes on, Dan James, can actually show the level that they need to be Premier League players consistently. We know that they can do it on and off. They've all shown that they've been able to do it on and off. They've all played varying amounts of Premier League football. Along with Daniel Farke's coaching and better recruitment, they have to have players that give us that X factor that can make that difference, i.e. Wolves staying up this season because of Acuna. You have to go and find some stardust. Rafinha. Rafinha. I'm not saying Rafinha, but Rafinha. When we signed him for 18 million from Rennes, he changed our levels. He was playing alongside Tyler Roberts, FFS. I'm not going to say, but he was playing alongside Tyler Roberts and Luke Alien. It's insane. That's what you have to do. You have to go and get them a couple of bits of stardust. I think we'll be okay. I think it's going to be a tough season. And, if we want to talk Premier League, we can talk Premier League. But I think we're going to be okay. I think we're equipped with the 49ers, the players that we've got, with some shrewd recruitment. And along with I really hope along with Daniel Farke. I really, really hope. Really hope.
Yeah. Just to let you know as well, guys, do subscribe, because me and Jason, we're going to hit you up with a start, sell, squad video coming up next week as well. We're going to get that done at some point as well, where we're going to go through everyone in the squad, the returning loanees as well, and see what we should be doing. It's funny because when I look at it, you look at those players. That Aronson's a great one, actually, because he's one of them I watch. I just go, he's just technically not good enough. He's just technically not Premier League level. He's just not. I mean, I watched a bit of Man City Wolves last night, and Wolves, who have not been great, but every player looks like they can really, control a football and can really make the football dance. And I'm like, they're like, what? Where are they in the league? I mean, it's like the level
16 or 17.
Yeah. And they can make the ball sing. Do you know what I mean? What the hell is going on? Do you know what I mean? And you're absolutely right. Recruitment's going to be, oh my God. I mean, everything is riding on that recruitment.
Yeah, no, you're right. Manor Solomon is probably the only player that you would put into that squad in terms of technical ability. Yeah. Maybe your Jayden Bogles, your Junior Firpos. I do think a certain amount of technical ability. Pirot maybe couldn't step up and develop. He's got, high levels of technical ability. But you're right. I love Brendan. And I've absolutely, defended him to the hilt, rightly so. And I'm going to say I'm right about what he's given us this season, 100%. The argument as to whether he can be a Premier League player for us or not is a totally different question. I've never said that.
Yeah.
Never said that. And I understand people saying, oh, it won't be good for enough for the Premier League. Yeah, but we're not talking about the Premier League. Now that we're at the Premier League, we can have that conversation. I think there's a conversation that he be kept around on the bench. We're going to need a squad. We're going to need a squad. Like, you can't just go and replace all of them. No. I do hear that there's going to need to be some churn, but you can't just go and replace them all. So, you know, there has to be, we need more players that are not even making the match day squad, Brownie. You know, like, players that are happy sometimes missing out because everybody's available. We bring them in when there's 3 or 4 injuries and a couple of suspensions or something. You know what I mean? Like, can you hear that ice cream van?
Yeah. It's a match of the day theme. It's a match of the day theme at least, so it's like football theme anyway.
So anyway,
I'll have a double plate, please.
Mate, do you know how expensive they are nowadays?
Oh no, it's ridiculous now.
I got 2 ice creams the other day for £6.50.
No,
£6.50 for 2 ice creams.
Nightmare. Nightmare. No, you're absolutely right though in terms of the players. I mean, as you know, it's such a fine balance because as Enzio says here, he's built up a proper good spirit with the squad, and bringing in someone new could mess that up. Although that can change quickly if someone else gets them winning. Things change quickly in football, and this is what they'll be weighing up. Because I mean, another great point that Enzio makes here as well is in the Premier League. You know, if he gets a rotten run of fixtures at the start, you know, if you're playing Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal in your first 5 games, you lose it, you barely have a shot on goal. It's suddenly the perception is not good enough, but it don't take into context the fact that you've played 3 of the best teams. I mean, it's going to be really difficult, isn't it? It's going to be really difficult.
It is, because I look at the Premier League and I look at the Premier League and I look at who could we finish in front of? Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of recruitment that could change this answer, and you need to hope that your likes of a Bournemouth or a Brentford or a Palace or one of these has a bad summer where they lose some players, a manager maybe leaves, they have a bit of a disarray, and then hopefully they can slip into there, because that is basically where you're at in that first season. I don't know how long, maybe it's probably always been like that though, and we've just not really recognised, a lot of the time, and this is why you get your situations, your Norwiches, your West Broms, your Fulhams. Some of these teams go up and down because it is hard to finish in front of them teams.
Yeah.
Burnley, hopefully, will be one of the ones that are below us. I'd love to see us both stay up after what we've achieved this season. But the likelihood is that Burnley are always going to be in and around that category of teams just because of the stature and the size of the club. And then whoever comes up with them will be exactly the same. And then, we have to just make sure that we find one to finish below us. That's what happened when Leicester and Southampton went down. You know what I mean? They'd both been in there for years and then found themselves in a situation. Leicester recently Premier League champions. You know what I mean? Being in Europe and all the rest of it. Bad management, bad recruitment, bad, management selections when managers move on and all the rest of it. That's what it takes. So, but it all comes down to recruitment, Brownie. It all comes down to recruitment. But I do think that's a really good point when it comes to Farke, especially the first 5 to 10 games.
Yeah.
If the fixtures are favourable to us, he should be able to acclaim enough points, especially at Ellen Road. Ellen Road is going to be a massive, massive factor next year. We're going to be able to beat some teams and bloody some noses that we really shouldn't be able to because of Ellen Road, because of the crowd, because of the momentum. We just have to make sure we make the most of it.
Well, we need that, don't we, as well? Because and this was the problem with certainly the relegation season and potentially the season before was, when you're getting humped. You're getting humped at home, losing 5-1 to Crystal Palace and 6-0 to Liverpool at home. And suddenly that fortress ebbs away, doesn't it? And it's almost like, how do you get started with that? How do you get going with that? And that's absolutely critical. I agree. I think it's going to be absolutely massive.
We won't be getting humped, mate.
No, we can't be, can we? Please. I can't go through that again.
That was a very specific set of circumstances, wasn't it? Like with the Bielsa tactic, the style, the drop off, the lack of squad that we had, the benches. Go and have a look at some of them benches, Brownie, that we had. It was brutal. And then you throw into the mix that team was really still a championship team. Luke Ayling, I love him. He'll be a hero forever. Liam Cooper, Melier. Alioski had left, but then Firpo being the worst left back I'd ever seen. Then the midfield. I mean, it was a mess, wasn't it? It was in both seasons. Tyler Roberts was playing. He's playing in League One, guys. You know, like Adam Forshaw. I'm being serious though. Like, you know, I mean, I was watching some highlights of the day of Helder Costa crossing into Mateus Click, and I'm like, how did we do this with this team? Like, it was ridiculous. And then the championship team, the relegation team, you know, we all know the likes of that call wasn't right. Koch and Lorente and, you know, Christensen, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie. It was a mess. You know, as best player that season, with the exception of Rafinha, had already gone by then, but it was Rodrigo. You know, Rodrigo really kept us anywhere near it. And I mean, is that the man that you... And I liked Rodrigo in that this year, but you don't want to be throwing your hat on Rodrigo, do you? You know what I mean?
No.
Jack Harrison.
I mean, it shows you how undercooked we were, though, doesn't it, really, for the Premier League, and how kind of out of the loop we were in terms of what we need to do to survive a league like the Premier League. And I hope this time, I mean, the 49ers were there. They were shadow partners at the time. They've seen it all from the inside. And, you know, speculate to accumulate, you know, we're going to have to put, you know, they're going to have to put their hands in the pockets and support this team, support Farke or whatever, you know, comes about. What are you expecting now? The season's done. It's over. Are you expecting a kind of flurry of signings? Are you expecting it to be quieter than expecting? Or, I mean, how do you see that the kind of next few weeks? Because it's interesting with the transfer window, isn't it? Because you're getting a kind of a mini transfer window, and then it's closing whilst the Club World Championship's going on, and then it's opening again. It's almost like it's like an extra, you're getting an extra bit of transfer window, but it's still the big teams that are dictating it, you see, because they're in this competition. And I do feel like preparation is going to be the key. Obviously, we've got a change in recruitment team. You know, it's almost like a new kind of recruitment team coming into it this summer. But are you expecting, you know, we get to Monday morning and there's signings and outgoings and all this, or do you think it's going to be more measured? Or, you know, how do you see that going? Because I can't call it myself, because I wonder on the one hand, do the 49ers go, okay, we need to flush the squad with quality, let's get this done and get it done early? Or is it going to be, look, these are the guys that got us to this position, do we have a little bit more faith in them and just try and supplement it?
No, I do think it'll be pretty brutal, if I'm honest. I do. Yeah. I think we've got the playoffs yet, haven't we? So I think is it another 2 weeks until the transfer window will open properly. I don't imagine that you'll hear anything straight away, but I think rumours will start fluttering pretty quickly. I reckon that Manor Solomon will be done and dusted pretty quick. Yeah. I think that'll be the first. It might even be before the transfer window opens. That's, you know, negotiated. It'll be signed and sealed on this date, kind of thing. I really do think that that'll be done. And I'm talking about all this from a position that the manager is staying. Yeah. So like, if there's a management change, then this might be a little bit different. But we're working off the eventuality that Daniel Farke's got another 2 years on his deal and he's still going to be here. I think you'll see movement pretty quickly. I think you'll also see outgoings pretty quickly as well. And again, I look at some of them that I maybe mentioned earlier, especially like a Gruev. I just can't. When they start analysing the squad, I just can't understand how some of them will factor into Premier League thinking. And then you're looking at the likes of Pat Bamford, who I think will probably move on. Sam Byram, you know, could there be a case for him being in the squad on the money that he's on? Maybe, I don't know. But, you know, like in terms of flushing out some of the Gulavoge, he's obviously not going to sign up again. You straight away are losing 4, 5, 6 bodies from the squad that you're going to have to replace with someone if you're going to stay up. So there's going to be a lot of movement. I think you'll see Melier announcement leaving early. He can't be the number one again going into next season. We know that. And Darlow's not going to be the man, is he? So, like, there's so many moving parts. I reckon that the starting lineup will probably be 5 or 6 new signings. I do. I think it'll be in that kind of ballpark.
Well, that's it. We can't really afford to not have it that way, though, can we? Really, we can't afford to kind of oh, let's give so-and-so a new deal because they did well in the championship. It's got to really be cutthroat, hasn't it? And who's actually good enough for the Premier League? Who's actually good enough to have a successful time of it in the Premier League? And I think, it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in the 100 points and how fantastic we are. And I mean, Junior Firpo is a perfect example for me. Yeah, he looks $1 million attacking in the Championship. He looks absolutely unstoppable. Goals, assists, flying up and down, not a problem, looks elite. We all remember what he was like in the Premier League. So he's a perfect example where you go, okay, so do you give him a new deal, take a chunk out of your PSR budget for a guy who has not done it for 2 years in the Premier League, but was exceptional at Championship? It's a real headache. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy, is it, Jason? Because then it's the effect of, well, what's he like under Farke? Could there be something there under Farke in the Premier League? Or, I mean, look, I don't envy them. I'm excited to see what they do, but I don't envy those having to get the final call on that stuff. No.
Tough conversations. I mean, I don't want to ruin any potential video, but I genuinely think out of the 11, there's 5 or 6 that would be starters in the Premier League, and I think we'd all probably come to the same agreement of who they would be. Maybe outside of 1 or 2. I think, like, as an example, Joe Perreault, I think, would give you a conversation to have. I think some people will say he can do it, some people say that he can't, and both cases would have a fair shake. He's going to be in and around the team without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
So, but then I think there's some absolute bankers like Tanaka, as an example. He's gonna be in our starting lineup come the start of next season. So I think you then there's so much, and it is brutal. It is really, really brutal, but you have to have a certain amount of kind of cutthroat mentality if you're gonna do the recruitment that you need to stay up, because the facts are is that the Championship players are not going to keep you in the Premier League against some of these sides that we're seeing. We've seen with the evolution of some of the teams in the division this season. Crystal Palace have notoriously always been in and around flirting with relegation, been nowhere near it this year. The relegation picture has pretty much been sewn up since January, and that's because all 3 of them teams are full Championship squads, all of them. They haven't got Premier League players between it. Like, they couldn't make up an 11 to stay up between the 3 of them. They really couldn't. I can think of maybe 4 or 5. The Lap, Kyle Walker-Peters at Southampton. Like, I'm struggling. Like, Ricardo Pereira at Leicester, the right back. Hermansen, maybe the keeper. Like, there's a couple, but Ipswich don't have any apart from the Lap. They don't. And off recent showing, you'd include Calvin Phillips in that as well. So, they don't. So you have to make sure that you facilitate them Championship-esque players that maybe can step up with Premier League quality. That is out and out Premier League quality.
Well, I mean, Phillips is a perfect example as well. It's like heart over head, isn't it? If you sign Phillips, you're doing that on an emotional kind of marketing, kind of fan base loving. You're not doing it based on facts. You're just not doing it. He's not good enough to play in a relegated team at the moment. There's absolutely no way you do it.
You spot on. I can already imagine the stream that we would put on if we announced the Calvin Phillips signing, because he's the Yorkshire Pearl, he's our boy. But I'd be disappointed. I'd be disappointed. I would, because it wouldn't fill me with the confidence that we're going in the right direction to keep us in the Premier League. That's based on his last 3 years, or certainly the last 2. You know, so again, he was one that found himself under a perfect storm in Bielsa. That his position was just perfect. And that is hard to replicate. We can't bring in a number 4, which we base our team around. We don't play with a single pivot. We play with the double. So unless Daniel Farke is going to be prepared to rip up the whole script to do that, or we get Bielsa back, then it's not going to work.
No. Mark's going in cutthroat here. Melier, Aronson, Joseph, Bamford, Gruev, Firpo, maybe Nonto will possibly go. Maybe more. We need upgrades. And this is the other thing to consider as well, Jason. There might be some shock departures that kind of open things up for us PSR wise as well. I mean, look at, nobody was like chucking Kamara out the door last summer. Nobody was kind of, wanting him out necessarily. So, he had some deficiencies, but I don't think anyone was like can't wait to get rid of or see the back of Kamara at
Yeah,
all. You know, if anything, it threw up a few question marks.
Yeah.
So it may even be things like that. You know, if a decent offer comes in for Aronson, you know, if a decent offer comes in for, you know, Nonto or whoever, that might facilitate movement.
100%. 100%. There'll be some offsetting against some of the assets that we have, because we do have assets. Pascal, while I don't rate him as a Premier League he's not a Premier League centre back. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but he's not. He does have a certain amount of attraction to him because of his age, because of his build, because of his stature. You know, he's pretty quick as a centre back. His ball playing ethos and the kind of reputation that he has. He does have a price tag attached to him that would be very beneficial for Leeds United to sell, because we signed him for next to nothing. So he would definitely be one that I'd look at. Meslier is another one that I still, even though he's been so poor, will hold a certain amount of value attached to him. I think there's others, you know, I think this might surprise some of you, and I don't want to see him go, but Dan James, I think, is in that kind of territory as well.
Dan James, debatable.
There'll be teams that will be prepared to pay 25, 30 million for Dan James. I'm telling you, there would be. So, you know, then if that's on the table and you think, well, you know what, we can then invest that in, I'm just going to throw a name out there, and I know we've been linked with him before, but a Noah Lang, or, you know, somebody of that kind of technical ability that's going to evolve your team on. Sinistera without the injuries, you know what I mean? Like that kind of ballpark player. You then have to ask the question, don't you? And we have got others. There's others that are pretty valuable. The Mateo Joseph conversation is a really interesting one, because again, no PSR problem in terms of the money that we pay for him. If we get 15 million for Mateo Joseph, the rumor is that it's 12.5 offer at the moment. We probably can negotiate a 15 million pound deal. You could then go and invest that in a 30 million pound striker that's good enough for the Premier League. So there's going to be all these conversations going on that are going to be super, super interesting to see how it goes. And you're right, the Glenn Kamara conversation from last season will show that even if they've only been a year, if they see it as being right for Leeds United, they'll move him on and replace him with somebody that's better for the system. Yeah,
absolutely. As Skip says here, need to be ruthless and not sentimental, as bad as I sound. There's, again, a lot riding on staying up. I think you've got Glenn here on kind of the other side of the fence saying we could rebuild Phillips, I think. And, you know, it's always going to be an interesting debate. You know, I think, though, what it's showing now is there's no room for sentiment. You know, there really isn't. And I think 49ers especially, like you've just said, are going to be ruthless with this stuff. Yeah. And if there's an opportunity to be had, they will absolutely take it 100%. And, you know, it's kind of shown that's what you kind of need to do, isn't it, really, in the Premier League?
Shows how fickle we are as football fans, isn't it? Like, we won the championship literally like 3 hours ago, whatever, and we're already talking about next season. And
get rid of them. Get rid of them.
It's just what it's like, you know. And I want to be mindful of it, because we really, really need to live in the moment, really enjoy it, really soak it up. I hope as many of you as possible can go to the parade on Monday. And please, you know, I know we only have a small viewership in relation to some of the content creators, but if you do see us in Leeds, come and say hi, because I'd love that. Like, I'd love to celebrate it with some of you guys. I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there, but I just thought I'd make that point because I think it is funny. But yeah, you're absolutely spot on, mate. They are ruthless. The 49ers, they are. We've seen that within the squad. We've seen that within the decisions that they made last summer. You know, they didn't have an option with Jorginho Rutter. Somerville needed to happen, but the situation with Archie Gray, it had to be done for the future of Leeds United and for the betterment of Leeds United, and it's proven as such. They got it spot on. And you know, they replaced him with a better right back, because that's where ultimately he played last season. We got a better midfielder in midfield over Glenn Kamara and Autanaka and Joe Rothwell. What a great signing he's been, by the way. Like, you know, when we kind of review this season, I think he probably is the unsung hero of the season, Joe Rothwell. I didn't think he would see, like, I didn't think we'd see him start games. I thought it would just be a purely bench operator. He's been a brilliant player. Anyway, again, another tangent. You know, like it just goes to show that the recruitment has been spot on. You know, Ramazani, Solomon, the situation in January, we're not signing players. They got it right. I didn't think they did at the time. They did. They got it spot on. You know, from back to front, mate. been brilliant. The only mistake that's been made by anybody this season really has been Daniel Farke and picking Melia for as long as he did. That is the only negative that I can give this season. And even that, he still got it right when he needed to most. He still got, he still made that big decision to go back on what he said, back on everything that he'd kind of tried to make happen, and did what was better for Leeds United and got it spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100% can't disagree with that at all. Well, there's going to be lots happening over the next few weeks. It's going to be an exciting time. It's nice to kind of be looking forward to the Premier League, looking forward to what's going to happen, ins and outs. Myself and Jay were going to be back numerous times over the summer. I think we had a comment earlier from someone asking if the West Yorkshire football show is going to be active over the summer. The answer is yes, absolutely, certainly. We've got the Monday show with the boys where we're looking at all the West Yorkshire clubs. Shout out for Bradford City today, who remarkable, really. I was keeping a close eye on that, and phenomenal for them to get over the line. That's massive for them, absolutely. So it's been a good day.
A quick touch on it. I was watching it. I mean, talk about mental moments in football. Oh. I mean, we obviously had our own in the 91st minute today. We've had several this season, but to win promotion in the 96th minute in the fashion that they did was just insane. And I don't really have this kind of thing with the I'm going to say smaller and try and be respectful, but the smaller teams in Yorkshire, like, I don't have any axe to grind with any of them. I kind of hope that they just all go about their own business without bothering us, because they just want to have these rivalries with us all the time. But Bradford especially, I just kind of hope that they go and enjoy themselves and do well in League One next season. They deserve it this year, and I'm buzzing for Gaz. Gaz
from the West Yorkshire Football Show. I was chatting with him yesterday. We did a little preview of it, and you can tell he were obviously, as you should be, absolutely kind of
bricking it,
nervous, bricking it. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, delighted for him there. But yeah, myself and Jason will be back with plenty of shows, plenty of material. We're going to be keeping a close eye on what is happening this summer going forward. It's exciting times. We are back in the Premier League. Leeds United, we've finished as champions, 100 points. We got to lift that trophy there. Please don't forget, if you've not liked the video already, please do get your comments in as well if you've not already done so as well. Let us know what you think about what we've discussed, and also make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Jason, we will be back again shortly, but any final thoughts before we depart?
Just champions again, ole, mate. I'm buzzing. The boys deserve it. What a season. What a brilliant season. What a way to finish it. 100 points, 95 goals, the most successful Leeds United manager at this level ever, most successful team in terms of points total that we've ever had. How can we be anything other than delighted? And yeah, please tune in to all of the stuff that we're going to do, Leeds United content over this summer, because it's going to be a bouncing summer into next season, the Premier League. I can't wait. I just want to talk Leeds all the time at the moment. Literally, I've been nagging Brownie, come on, forget the family, come on, get on stream. So yeah, thank you for tuning in with us this year, and please keep on, joining in, bring all your comments in. We love them, and yeah. Good in the boys.
Come on. Good stuff. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next time. I've been Stephen Brown, with me as ever, Jason Booker. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll speak again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.